In the twilight hours, as the day waned over the ancient city of Sodom, two celestial beings, appearing as men, arrived. Their presence, though outwardly human, carried an unspoken gravitas that distinguished them from the city's inhabitants. Lot, a resident of Sodom and a nephew of Abraham, sat by the city gate, a traditional place of judgment and social gathering. Observing the strangers, Lot rose with profound reverence, bowing low to the ground. He recognized the vulnerability of travelers in such a place and felt an immediate imperative to offer protection. Lot extended a fervent invitation to the two men, urging them to spend the night under his roof rather than in the exposed town square. Initially, the visitors demurred, stating their intention to remain in the public space. However, Lot's insistence was unwavering, driven by a deep sense of duty and hospitality. His persistent plea ultimately prevailed, and the two men accepted his gracious offer. Upon their arrival at Lot's dwelling, he immediately set about preparing a meal. He baked unleavened cakes, a sign of haste, and perhaps a reflection of the urgency he felt in providing for his guests. This act of hospitality underscored Lot's adherence to ancient customs of welcoming strangers, a stark contrast to the prevailing ethos of Sodom. Before the two guests could retire for the night, a menacing crowd began to gather. From every quarter of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded Lot's house. Their intentions were immediately clear and deeply sinister. The mob pounded on Lot's door, demanding that he bring out his guests. Their explicit demand was for intimacies, a euphemism for sexual assault, revealing the profound moral corruption that permeated the city. Lot, understanding the gravity of the situation and the sacred duty of protecting those under his roof, went outside to confront the enraged townsmen. He closed the door behind him, attempting to shield his guests from the immediate threat. Lot pleaded with the mob, imploring them not to commit such wickedness against his visitors. In a desperate and ethically fraught attempt to appease the crowd and protect his guests, Lot offered his two virgin daughters to them instead. Lot emphasized the inviolable sanctity of his guests, asserting that they were under his protection and must not be harmed. He appealed to their sense of honor, however diminished it might be. The townsmen, however, scorned Lot's plea and his desperate offer. They mocked him as an immigrant, an outsider who presumed to judge their ways. Their rage intensified, and they threatened Lot himself, declaring their intention to treat him worse than his guests. The mob then surged forward, attempting to break down the door to Lot's house, their violent intent now fully unleashed. As the mob pressed against the door, the two celestial visitors acted decisively. They reached out, pulling Lot back inside the house, and swiftly secured the entrance. Their intervention was immediate and powerful, preventing the mob from breaching the sanctuary of Lot's home. With a display of supernatural power, the angels struck the men at the entrance with a blinding light. This divine affliction rendered the entire crowd, from the least to the greatest, utterly sightless. The blinded men were then plunged into confusion, stumbling about, unable to locate the doorway they had so vehemently sought to breach. With the immediate threat neutralized, the angels revealed their true purpose to Lot. They declared their mission was to destroy Sodom, for the outcry against its great wickedness had reached the heavens. The city's depravity had become so profound that divine judgment was imminent and unavoidable. They instructed Lot to gather his entire family, his wife, his daughters, and anyone else connected to him, and to flee the city without delay. This command underscored the urgency of their departure and the totality of the impending destruction. Lot was given a singular opportunity for salvation amidst the coming devastation. Lot, now fully aware of the impending catastrophe, immediately sought to warn his family. He went to his sons-in-law, who were betrothed to his daughters, and urged them to flee the city. He explained that the Lord was about to destroy Sodom. However, his warning was met with disbelief and derision. His sons-in-law dismissed his words as a joke, unable to comprehend the gravity of the divine pronouncement. They remained entrenched in their skepticism, choosing to ignore the dire prophecy. As dawn broke, the angels grew increasingly urgent. They pressed Lot, his wife, and his 2 unmarried daughters to leave quickly, emphasizing that any delay would be perilous. Lot, however, hesitated, perhaps still grappling with the reality of abandoning his home and the city he had known. Due to his lingering hesitation, the angels took physical action. They grasped the hands of Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters, leading them out of the city by force. This act highlighted the divine imperative and the narrow window of opportunity for escape. Once outside the city, they were given strict instructions. Flee for your lives. Do not look back, and do not stop anywhere on the plain. They were commanded to escape to the hills immediately, as only there would they find safety from the impending destruction. Lot, however, expressed fear regarding the hills, believing he could not reach them quickly enough to escape the divine wrath. He pleaded with the angels, requesting permission to flee instead to a small town nearby, which he called Zoar. He argued that this small settlement would offer a more immediate refuge. The angels granted his request, acknowledging his fear and promising not to destroy Zoar until he had safely arrived within its walls. This concession demonstrated a measure of divine mercy amidst the impending judgment. Lot's plea for a specific sanctuary was thus honored. As the sun rose fully over the horizon, Lot arrived safely in Zoar, having narrowly escaped the fate of the other cities. His arrival marked the precise moment when the divine judgment was unleashed upon the land. The timing underscored the direct connection between his safety and the commencement of destruction. Then, the Lord rained down sulfurous fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah, and upon all the cities of the plain. The entire region, with its inhabitants and vegetation, was utterly consumed by the fiery deluge. The destruction was absolute, a stark manifestation of divine wrath against profound wickedness. Tragically, Lot's wife, despite the explicit instruction, disobeyed the command not to look back. As she cast a glance behind her, she was instantly transformed into a pillar of salt. Her fate served as a grim warning against disobedience and attachment to the condemned world. Following the catastrophic destruction, Lot, still fearing the proximity of Zoar, decided to move further away. He and his 2 daughters ascended into the hills, seeking a more isolated refuge. They eventually settled in a cave, living in seclusion amidst the desolate landscape. In their isolation, Lot's daughters came to a profound and desperate conclusion. Believing that they were the only survivors of the entire region and that all humanity outside their immediate family had perished, they feared the extinction of their father's lineage. This belief, born of their traumatic experience and limited perspective, drove their subsequent actions. They conspired to ensure the continuation of their family line. On 2 successive nights, they plied their father with wine, and each daughter, in turn, lay with him. Through these acts, they conceived children with their father, driven by the perceived necessity of preserving their lineage. From these unions, 2 sons were born. The elder daughter bore a son named Moab, who became the progenitor of the Moabites. The younger daughter bore a son named Ben-Ammi, who became the ancestor of the Ammonites. Thus, from the ashes of Sodom and the desperate acts in the cave, 2 significant nations of antiquity emerged, forever linked to the dramatic events of their origin.